Hey there, horror fan. Ready for another batch of bone-chilling stories? Let's dive in. Quick favor, smash that like button and subscribe. It takes 2 seconds, and it keeps the nightmares coming. Every story you hear is pulled from real sources, names altered, but the events, 100% real. Buckle up. We're starting now. America's national parks are some of the most beautiful places on Earth. Towering mountains, deep forests, crystal clear lakes. Millions of people visit them every year to find peace, to connect with nature, to escape the noise of the modern world. We are taught that these places are safe, protected, managed. But there is a darker side to the wilderness, a side that park rangers know about, but rarely speak of publicly. Every year, people vanish in these parks, not just lost hikers who wander off trail. We are talking about healthy, experienced people who disappear without a trace. And sometimes they are found in places that make no sense, locations that are physically impossible to reach, without shoes, without memory, or they are never found at all. This phenomenon has a name. Some call it missing 411. It is a pattern of disappearances that defies logic. No tracks, no signs of struggle, just silence. Today, we are going to look into 3 specific cases that highlight this mystery. These are not campfire stories. These are reported incidents, documented by families and search parties. As you listen, ask yourself, what really happens when you step off the path? Part 1. The Yosemite Child. Our first story takes place in Yosemite National Park. It is one of the most visited parks in the country. Busy, crowded, safe. Or so you would think. A family arrived for a summer vacation. They had been camping for years, knew the rules, knew the risks. They had a young son, let's call him Leo. He was 8 years old, healthy, active, smart. On the 3rd day of their trip, the family decided to have a picnic near a designated area close to the main valley. It was not deep wilderness. It was near the road, near other people. The father went to the car to grab something. It took less than 2 minutes. When he returned, the boy was gone. Now, imagine this. You are in a crowded park. It is daytime. Your child vanishes in less than 120 seconds. The father screamed. People came running. Search parties formed within minutes. They had dogs. They had helicopters. They had hundreds of volunteers. They combed every inch of the area. Nothing. No footprints leading away from the picnic blanket. No broken branches. No signs of a struggle. It was as if the boy had simply ceased to exist. The parents were hysterical. The father kept saying, "I was only gone for a moment. He was right there." 24 hours passed, then 48. The hope began to fade. Search teams expanded their radius. They checked cliffs. They checked rivers. They checked bear dens. Nothing. On the 3rd day, a search dog picked up a scent. It led the team miles away from the picnic site. Miles, into terrain that was steep, rocky, and densely covered in brush. Terrain that an 8-year-old boy could not have navigated alone, especially not in such a short time. They found him. He was sitting on a large flat rock. He was calm. He was not crying. He was not injured. He was wearing the same clothes he had on at the picnic, but his shoes were missing. No socks, just bare feet on the rough granite. When the rangers asked him how he got there, he couldn't tell them. He said he didn't remember walking. He said he remembered seeing something. When pressed, he described a voice that called his name from the trees. He said it sounded like his father, but softer. He said he followed the voice. Here is where the story gets stranger. The location where he was found was inaccessible. Search teams had walked that specific area multiple times during the search. They had dogs. They had eyes everywhere. How did they miss a child sitting on a rock? And how did an 8-year-old boy get there without leaving a single trail of broken twigs or disturbed dust? The medical examination showed no signs of malnutrition or dehydration. despite being missing for 3 days. It was as if time had worked differently for him. The family left the park the next day. They never returned. The father later said that whenever he closed his eyes, he could still hear that voice in the trees, calling, not angry, just waiting. This case fits a common pattern in missing 411 reports: a vanishing in a safe zone, a finding in an impossible location, no tracks, and a lack of memory about what happened. But Yosemite is not the only place. The mountains hold many secrets. New face, welcome to the darkness. Returning soul, thank you for braving the night again. Subscribe and hit the bell, unless you want to miss the daily descent into fear. And tell me, what topic haunts you most? Drop it in the comments. I'm listening. Part 2. The Ranger Who Knew the Woods. The Great Smoky Mountains are ancient, some of the oldest mountains on the continent. They are covered in dense forest, thick fog, and shadows that seem to move even when the wind is still. This is where our second story takes place. And this time, the person who vanished was not a tourist. It was not a child. It was a man who knew every inch of the land. Let us call him David. David had been a park ranger for over 20 years. He grew up in these mountains. He knew the trails better than he knew the streets of his own hometown. He knew where the bears denned. He knew which cliffs were unstable. He knew how to read the weather by the shape of the clouds. If anyone was safe in the Smokies, it was David. It was a routine patrol. Nothing unusual. He was checking a remote sector of the park, an area rarely visited by hikers. He radioed in at 8 in the morning. He said the weather was clear. He said he would be back by 4. He never came back. At first, no one worried. Radios can fail. Batteries die. But when night fell and David did not return to the station, his colleagues grew concerned. They tried to call him. No answer. They drove to the last known checkpoint. His truck was there. His gear was there. But David was gone. This is where the story begins to defy logic. A search party was launched immediately. These were not volunteers. These were fellow rangers. They had dogs. They had GPS. They had decades of experience between them. They started searching the trail David was supposed to take. It was a straight path, flat, easy to follow, but the dogs lost the scent within 50 yards of the truck. They just stopped. They whined and refused to go further. The lead ranger said it was like the trail simply ended, as if David had lifted off the ground. Compasses began to behave strangely. Several members of the search team reported their needles spinning wildly. They could not get a bearing. GPS units lost signal in an area that usually had full coverage. It was as if the mountain itself was hiding him. 3 days passed. The search expanded. Helicopters scanned the canopy. Teams pushed through thick brush. They found nothing. No campfire. No footprints. No signs of a struggle. It was a perfect void. On the 4th day, a search team found him. He was not on the trail. He was not near the trail. He was found in a dense thicket of rhododendron, miles away from his intended path. Terrain so thick that a human could barely walk through it without a machete. Yet David was there. He was alive, but he was not well. He was sitting with his back against a tree. His uniform was soaked. His boots were missing. He was not injured, but he was in a state of shock. He could not speak clearly. He could not say how he got there. He could not say what happened. When he was finally coherent, days later in the hospital, he told them fragments. He said he was walking the trail. Then he heard a sound, not an animal, not the wind. He described it as a hum, a low vibration that he felt in his chest. He said the fog rolled in instantly, thick, white, unnatural. He said he could not see his own hands in front of his face. He tried to radio for help. The radio made a sound like static, but louder, like voices whispering underneath the noise. He said he started walking to get out of the fog. He walked for what felt like hours, but when the fog lifted, he was in a place he did not recognize. The trees looked wrong. The angles were off. The light was dim even though it was midday. He said he felt watched, not by animals, by something standing behind the trees. He said he could see shapes, tall, thin, blending into the bark. He did not run. He said running felt pointless, like the land itself would not let him leave. So he sat down. He waited, and then he was found. Here is the part that haunts the other rangers. The location where David was found was searched twice before, on day 2 and day 3. Teams walked within 50 feet of where he sat. They had dogs. They had eyes. How did they miss him? David quit the force 2 weeks later. He moved away from the state. He refused to go near any national park again. He told his family that the mountains were not empty. He said there are places where the rules do not apply, places where time stretches, where directions mean nothing. This case is documented in search and rescue logs. It is not a rumor. A trained professional vanished in plain sight, found in an impossible location, with no memory of the journey, and with equipment that failed without explanation. Some say it is magnetic anomalies. Some say it is psychological breakdown under stress. But those who know the woods know better. The wilderness is old, older than us, older than our maps, and sometimes it decides to keep what enters it. David was lucky. He came back, but not everyone does. Our next story involves a group of people, friends, hikers. They went into the woods together, but only some of them came out, and what they brought back with them changed everything. What did you think? Drop a comment with your theory or your own scary experience. And if you haven't yet, subscribe and hit the bell. Tomorrow, we go deeper into the darkness together. Part 3, the group that never came back the same. The first 2 stories were about individuals, a child, a ranger, people who vanished alone. But what happens when a group goes into the wilderness together? When there are witnesses, when there are safety numbers? Surely nothing can happen then. Surely the woods cannot take everyone. Our third story takes place in Glacier National Park, Montana, high altitude, cold, remote. 3 friends went hiking together. Let us call them Mark, Sarah, and James. They were experienced. They had maps. They had supplies. They told people where they were going. They did everything right. They were scheduled to return on a Friday evening. When they did not show up, their families called the Park Service. A search began on Saturday morning. The weather was clear. The trail was well marked. It should have been an easy find. On Sunday, searchers found Mark and Sarah. They were sitting on the side of the trail, only 5 miles from where they started. They were dehydrated. They were confused. But they were alive. When asked where James was, they could not answer. They looked at each other with blank expressions. They said they did not remember. They said they were walking together. Then there was a fog, a white fog that smelled like ozone, like electricity. And then James was gone. They said they called his name. They said they waited. But time felt wrong. They said minutes felt like hours. They said the sun did not move in the sky. They claimed they walked for what felt like days, but only hours had passed. Search teams looked for James for weeks. They found nothing. No body, no gear, no tracks. It was as if he had been erased from existence. But the story does not end there. Mark and Sarah returned home. But they were not the same people. Friends noticed it. Family noticed it. They would stare at the woods behind their houses for hours. They stopped talking about the trip. They stopped talking about James. 1 year later, Mark moved to a city far from any mountains. He refused to go outside after dark. He told his sister that he could still hear the fog. He said it called to him sometimes. He said James was not lost. He said James was taken. Sarah stayed in the state. She quit her job. She spent her savings buying maps and compasses. She told people she was going to find him. She went back to the park alone. She never came back. Her car was found at the trailhead. The engine was cold. The keys were in the ignition. She was never found. 2 friends went in. One came back changed. One came back and vanished. One never came back at all. This is the pattern. This is the horror of missing 411. It is not just about getting lost. It is about the land itself behaving in ways that break the laws of physics. Researchers have documented common threads in these cases. People vanish near water sources, streams, lakes, waterfalls. They vanish in clusters. One person goes, then another follows. They are often found in impossible locations, high elevations that require climbing gear, found by children without shoes. Clothing is often found scattered, not torn, not damaged, just placed, neatly, as if someone took them off willingly. Search dogs lose the scent at specific boundaries, as if there is an invisible line that the smell cannot cross. Some scientists say it is magnetic anomalies. Some say it is predatory animals. Some say it is psychological panic. But ask the families, ask the rangers who work these cases. They will tell you something else. They will tell you that the parks are not just land. They are guardians. And some guardians do not like visitors. There are places on the map that are older than humanity, older than our roads, older than our laws. And in those places, we are not the top of the food chain. We like to think we control nature. We build fences. We make maps. We name the trails. But the wilderness does not care about our names. It does not care about our plans. When you step off the path, you are entering a different world, a world that operates on different rules. Most people who go hiking will return home safely. They will take photos. They will see bears. They will tell stories. But a small number will not. A small number will step into the trees and simply cease to be. If you go into the woods, stay on the trail. Tell someone where you are going. Watch your children. And if you hear a voice calling your name from the trees, do not answer. Do not follow. Because something out there knows how to sound like the people you love. The mountains are beautiful, but they are also hungry. And they have been waiting long before we arrived. They will be waiting long after we are gone. Thank you for listening. Stay safe. And remember, the woods are always watching.